This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stuart Howden.
Welcome. Show number 180. Here we are again. It's snowing outside.
Yep.
So that ruins the generic timeline of whatever we do, right?
Right.
Because I always want to talk about the weather.
But it's a good day to come and visit. It's not crowded here today.
It's not crowded at all. We're taking no consignments in, and we're taking nourishment. But other than that, there's no people coming in, but it's a little bit of snow. But thank God they've got plenty of salt around here, because they throw salt down if it rains and it's 50 outside. And apparently they need to get the salt down because somebody's going to sue somebody.
Nothing worse for a car. But
there's nothing worse than that sound on some cars, especially with sticky tires, and you're driving along and
salt getting up.
Or they brine the roads, and it's salt water you're driving through.
I thought, So anyway, number of cars in inventory. JR, you go first this week.
1,065.
I'm going to go. 9 came in yesterday. I'm going to go 1050.
How about 1044?
Oh, we both went over.
Oh, no prize.
So you don't get the prize. So fascinating stuff we're talking about here. So why don't we get right to our guest?
Who doesn't have to worry about salt?
Yeah, doesn't have to worry about salt and snow. We've got Jay Ward joining us via Zoom. Jay is the creative director of franchise at Pixar Animation Studios and legacy guardian as well, too. Good morning, Jay.
Hey, nice to talk to you guys today, and sorry that you're getting snow and salt on the road out in your part of the world.
Yeah, it seems to be with it. It's funny. I grew up in the South, and people in the South have no problem driving in the snow. Around here in Pennsylvania, you'd think it was, people just freak out when there's snow and can't make it to work and can't do this and can't do that. And of course, if you force them to come to work, then then you're liable. So joy.
We have a similar version out here. It's when it rains, people all of a sudden speed up, begin to tailgate, and then smash into guardrails because it's raining.
What is up with that? I don't know. Y'all are supposed to be getting some rain here pretty soon, which is kind of needed, right?
Well, and I'm Northern California, so we're 350 miles from LA. We have a very different climate than Los Angeles, but we've been pounded with what's called the Pineapple Express. So we do get a decent amount of rain up here, which I don't mind at all. It's
sure.
We get a little bit more seasonal stuff than LA.
So you're in Emeryville, that area?
That's right. In fact, Emeryville is a suburb of the East Bay, so we're surrounded by Oakland. But Emeryville is where the Doble steam cars were built right at the end before they went out of business.
Wow.
Emeryville had a board track that Barney Oldfield raced at, and Emeryville also had a Fisher body plant. So there's a lot of kind of interesting car history a stone's throw from where I am right now.
And did you grow up there, or is that where you've moved since?
No, Emeryville is the location of Pixar, so I don't live in Emeryville. I live in a little town near here. Right. I am from Kansas City, Missouri. That's my hometown.
I didn't know that. So
yeah, KTMO.
Go Chiefs! What happened?
Well, no, more like the Chiefs blow is kind of what we're saying right now.
I'm here in Philly land, so I have to be careful in what I wear. Even just a red hat might get me in trouble. So.
We don't have to talk football, but I'll say the Phillies very much deserve that win. They did a killer job, and Kansas City folded like a cheap
boy.
I don't know what happened.
Prom dress, whatever.
Fell
it was
apart.
One of those.
Philly was amazing.
Unbelievable. They deserved everything that they got. So
I don't know why the fans blow up the downtown or like literally burn the place to the ground when they win. I'm still figuring that one out.
The loss, I get it. I understand. You want to go tear some things up. So you've been with Pixar since 1998. Is that right? They just had to be a small little startup at that point in time, right?
Well, first of all, I was 5 years old, and the child labor laws were very different in '98. It was like coal mining.
Didn't have to have a family relation or anything, right?
Didn't matter. No. I started at the very end of '98. So what happened was I interviewed right before A Bug's Life came out, the second film,
right,
and started just after Bug's Life came out. So my first memory at the studio was Steve Jobs holding a company meeting and talking about the box office numbers from our second film, From A Bug's Life. And what I tell people now is when you say I work at Pixar, most people, oh my gosh, I love Pixar. But when I started there in '98 and I told my mom, hey, I got a job at Pixar, she was like, what is that? Is that a software company?
Right.
I said, no, they did Toy Story. And she's like, wasn't that Disney? It wasn't a household name. And I don't think that happened until after we hit Monsters, Inc., Nemo, Incredibles, Cars, all in a row. And then we were just on the map. We just went crazy from there.
Yeah, it's funny. People are very aware of Pixar, and people that may not even be aware of any other studios in the world. It just because that, I don't know, it's just that relatable, I guess, the name and the movies that they put out. I mean, the animation stuff is really amazing, and it's so fun because it's a lot like the stuff from Disney when we were kids. There's a lot of double entendre. There's little inside jokes that you hear that as an adult you would get and a kid you wouldn't get, right?
Yeah, and we try to make we don't make children's films. I always say we make films that work for adults and children. They just happen to be animated.
Right.
I always ask people, I asked you if The Wizard of Oz was an adult film or kids film. We said, well, Wizard of Oz works for everybody. Right. And I think that's what we try to do. Right.
Wizard of Oz is an amazing movie too. I mean, it really is. It's one of those ones that you could watch 1,000 times and still just see something new every time. It's so fun to watch. And of course, stuff with Pixar was amazing because I guess part of it too had to do with the fact that you were able to get a great roster of voices, of recognizable voices, of top tier actors to be in these productions, and that seems to be a really cool formula for success.
I'd say one thing that we did different was if you look at Disney back in the 90s, they got amazing people. They got very first tier actors. And what was common was you would sort of model the character in the film to look a little bit like the actor. Like Robin Williams looks a little bit like the genie in Aladdin. Right. But we didn't do that. We always designed our characters first and made our characters appealing and then found the perfect voice to fit to that character. And I think that was a different philosophy for us. So when you look at Sully and Mike in Monsters, Inc., it's John Goodman and Billy Crystal, but they don't look like John Goodman or Billy Crystal. Right. But you can't think of anybody else doing that voice because they're the perfect voice for that character. It's
interesting. It's like if you've met somebody on the phone and never seen them in person or never seen a picture of them in person, you get a preconceived notion of what they look like. When you're talking to somebody and you have no idea and you think they're, people think I'm 6'8" and, because I have this deep voice, and it turns out I'm not 6'8" anywhere near. Yeah. But on podcast, I have it makes you bigger. Or something. I don't know.
What's the automotive equivalent of that? When you look at a car and you're like, whoa, that thing looks amazing. And then when you drive it, it's like, wah, wah.
Yeah. How many times does that happen? Our favorite cars, you get in a Lamborghini Countach for the first time and you're like, oh my God, I don't know. How am I going to back this thing up? I can't sit on the sill. My legs aren't long enough. I can't see out the sides. All of a sudden, or a Cobra, an AC Cobra, where you get in and you remind the passenger when they get out not to burn their leg when they get out, and you burn your leg because...
I heard somebody talking about this the other day. There are these cars that we romantically fall in love with for the way they look, and we desire to have them. We put them on our car bucket list. Mm-hmm. And some of those cars you achieve, and then when you get it, within a few months, like, this car's at the back of the garage. I'm not driving it. I'm already thinking about what I might flip it for.
Absolutely.
And then there's other cars you didn't expect that you're like, I could never sell this because X or Y. So it's just funny that way. You don't know till you have them.
Well, and the problem that you run into, I make the mistake of trying to buy low mileage cars, and then I panic. I bought a car for my wife, and I go, we can't drive it anymore. And she goes, why not? And I go, well, it's at 4,990 miles. And any car guy would understand why I can't drive it anymore. And she's like, you're just going to have to get over that because I'm driving this thing. And when you're out of town next week, I'm going to go over 5,000 miles. And I'm like, and then she's like, and she's right. She's like, come on, you're getting hung up on a number. I don't think 4,990 and 5,110 are going to mean that much of a difference.
Yesterday on Bring a Trailer, there was a Mercedes SL600 V12 that had it was
180 miles.
100 miles. So here's the thing: you buy that car.
What are you gonna?
What are you going to do? Are you going to drive until the wheels come off? Or are you going to say, oh, no, it's only the value is in what I paid for this low mileage? I don't know.
Well, we sell many low mileage cars, and we ask the people, now, what are you going to do with this? Just out of curiosity, but also to snicker later at them. No. And we ask them, what are you going to do? Oh, the guy goes, well, I'm going to make it my daily driver. And I'm like, okay, you're buying a Grand National Buick. And this one has got 3,100 miles on it. I've got this really nice driver quality one with 45,000 miles on it that you could put 15,000 miles on it, and it will not hurt the value at all. And you're not paying that premium. But people love that low. There's a boxy Chevy pickup truck on there, an 87 or something that my buddy had on there that brought 170,000 maybe about a month ago. And it's like, wow.
fresh out of the wrapper.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand new truck. But again, what do you do with it? And what most people would do with it is put it in a corner of a collection and say, there's my pickup truck that's got 187 original miles on it.
That's right.
And never drive it. I mean, people always wonder, why do these guys have these Ferraris that only have 800 miles on them? Well, because the reason is because the guy not only has a Ferrari, he's got a McLaren, he's got a Pagani, he's got 20 cars or 30 cars. You can't drive them all, right?
Well, you're leaving out an important point. They also know if they drive it 1,000 miles, they got to do a 10,000 mile belt service.
Which only Ferrari could get away with that. Well, your 10,000 mile belt service is due. Well, only got 1,000 miles on it. Well, yeah, but that's just the way the math works at Ferrari. Okay.
Yeah, the time's up. And so So what's the step for the belt replacement? A, we drop the engine out. I'm sorry, what? You do what now?
That's like, a Porsche 928, you used to have to pull the engine to change the spark plug. So, I mean, that was like, who came up? I'd like to know what guy came up with that design, That's
when you get one of those little sawzalls with the drill hole and you just make little access ports
right.
on the side of your, yeah.
How about the Dodge Viper? The battery's up under the fender. I mean, you've got to get the fender lifted or even, this is the best. The Rolls Royces of the 80s had the battery in the trunk and the trunk was electrically operated. Yeah. So if the battery went dead, I remember at eBay Cruise at Rawhide in 2002 in Scottsdale, we were doing an auction at an old Western town area, which is a whole nother long story. And I had to pick up an 87 Rolls Royce with a forklift to get it out of the way because it was dead and you couldn't get in the trunk and the battery was in the trunk. So brilliant design, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're not far in your part of the world from Carmel, Monterey, that part of the world, right?
That's right.
You can day trip it over there, right?
That's right. I'm a judge at Pebble Beach every summer, so I've been doing that for
so cool.
Probably about 7 or 8 years now. I've been judging it at Pebble Beach, which has been really an honor.
What's Jay 7 years ago and Jay today as far as judging goes? Do you know a hell of a lot more than you knew when you first started, or do you still? I know that a lot of the judges are honorary judges, I guess, where you judge on appeal and desire and design more than if it's got the correct wing nut on it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Class judging versus honorary judging,
right.
Which is more subjective. And I've done both. But the class judging I've done has been the Hot Rods and Customs with Ken Gross. He pulled me into that for a few years of the Hot Rods and Customs, which was great because there is a more, you're looking at it with more scrutiny. You are making sure that it is what it's represented to be, but still not getting into finishes and nuts and bolts quite as much as you would with a Duesenberg or a Packard.
Sure. I mean, it's we always say when you see 10 Duesenbergs in a row, there's not going to be a slouch there. But surprisingly, in talking to Concours judges, a lot of them say, there are details that get missed even on the highest end restorations.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd be a nervous wreck, I think, the first time doing a Concours judging. Like somebody was going to come up to me and goes, I feel like Ron White when he got to play Shadow Creek in Vegas. He said, "Nobody's stopping me." I feel like, sir, I'm sorry. Do you have the credentials to be doing this? You know
what I will say as a judge is you do see things very quickly. You get a good eye for it, and honestly, I wish a lot of the people who enter the car would ask in a nice way, "Hey, what could I do to make this?" But most people have so much sort of pride, or they identify themselves with their car that they have a hard time doing that. But I'd love to tell somebody, well, here's why your car didn't make the top 3, X and Y. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that, but they never want to know.
No, well, all they're thinking about is how they're going to go kill the guy who built the car for them because they didn't get. I mean, it's impatient rich guys a lot of times that are involved in these things, and not every guy is like that. Listen, we know some wonderful people in this hobby, but there are people who are very demanding.
Sure,
they say if they give a car to XYZ Restoration Shop and say win Pebble Beach, there isn't a dollar amount associated with that request. It just win Pebble Beach. I mean, like we were talking off air about America's Most Beautiful Roadster, which Ross Myers from up the street from us here. What did that cost to build? I don't even want to say it out loud. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's a whole different thing. When you build a car specifically to win something, it's a bit like we were saying with low mileage cars. You can't really drive something like that because there's no way to keep it that pristine. So you almost want to win that class and then start driving the car at that.
I do love the fact that Pebble Beach, though, has done the 17-mile the drive, and that if there's rock chips or bugs or something on the car, that it's not going to discount its points. And as a matter of fact, if 2 cars are equal in all things except one of them participated in the rally and the other didn't, then that could be the tiebreaker.
That's right.
I love that because they should be driven. They're cars. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and every now and then we get a car that was damaged in a trailer in transit or damaged on the tour, and we don't ding any points for that. So that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be kind of unfair to a guy the guys spent all this gazillion dollars but, there's so many beautiful cars out there. And, talk about the selection committee at Pebble has got to be tougher than the judging. Just figuring out which one of these cars who are you going to say no to,
Yeah, you do have to dig because a lot of times cars, even the owner's not aware of them not being the way they were originally built.
Sure.
Right? Because cars go through lifespans, they change colors back. Sometimes there's serial number hinkiness, not their fault. It could be a factory deal with a lot of these coach-built cars where two cars may have a very similar number. So there's a lot of stuff you got to look at. And the other thing is has that car already won a bunch of stuff?
Right, right.
I like to find the stuff that's never gotten that nod before.
Well, I'm an oddball guy, so I would pick some of the Concours. There, one guy had the '73 Buick Centurion swivel seat, butterscotch, 455 stage 1473D, and I would pick that guy. But no, I would be the only one. I'd be the outlier.
Well, I'll give you an example. Last year, I judged at the Audrain, which I love the Audrain. It's a great show.
Great show.
And a guy brought a perfect 76 Maserati Camson. And the Camson is the weird, very, very pointy, wedgy car. And this thing had the mouse hair interior. It was metallic brown. I mean, It was 1976 to a T, and it was a $300,000 restoration on a $100,000 car.
Exactly.
And I just said this, and somebody said, well, this other car's more elegant. And I said, yeah, but it's worn out and it's funky, and I've seen 20 of them. This car, you'll never see another that perfect Camson in the world.
I love that people do things for love of the mark or love of the car. What it's going to be worth, be damned. That they take a car because they always loved it. And I love to see a car that's impeccably restored that nobody would choose. And that's similar to what you're talking about. I mean, the Maserati Bora was kind of the same way. You could you could barely give those away 20 years ago. Now you see them for $100,000. You think, what?
I know.
How did that happen?
A Merrick, like that was a laughable. The Maserati Merrick with the Citroen steering wheel. You're like, oh, geez. And the spare tire sitting on top of the engine, cooking the spare.
Yeah, good idea. Well, I love that. The 308 Ferrari was the same way. I mean, I remember if you bought one, any of your buddies would tell you, oh, I have a buddy call me and say, I just bought a 308. All right, well, take it to the Ferrari dealer. What'd you pay? 25? Well, you're going to spend 25 more at the dealer, and then you're going to have a car. It really doesn't run that well. It's not that fast. It's not that, it looks cool. But you know what's funny? We've talked about this, and you being in design will probably appreciate this, is that I talk to my guys who write the descriptions of the cars, and we talk about, for example, a 76 Corvette. And if you are in the car business, you look at a 76 Corvette and you go, oh, well, they're underpowered and this and that. But when my guys write the description, it makes me stand back and look at it and go, you know what? If I didn't know anything about a 76 Corvette, I think that's a damn sexy looking car. Yeah. Isn't it funny how your perception of things changes when somebody talks about it in a different light?
I think that's a big part. I think a thing too is when you think back to yourself as a 20-year-old guy and you were just excited to have a cool old car,
right?
Period, right? And you get that car, and then you go on to the next, and you go on to the next, and we're almost like Tarzan swinging from vine to vine with cars, and we're always wanting the next biggest thing. And sometimes you go, wait, time out. Yeah. Like there's some great stuff. Things doesn't have to cost $200,000 to be a cool car. There's so much great stuff that's available for 20, 30, 40 grand. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Honda S2000 comes to mind, or even Skip Barber we had him on the show last week. He was talking about the Mazda Miata, one of the greatest cars to drive that you'll ever find. And you can buy them for 10, 12 grand.
There's a plethora of them out there. And that's a great first car if you have a son or a daughter coming up to teach them to drive a manual and to a car that will start and run every day.
Not a Dodge Demon. You don't think that'd be a good one to start the kids out?
It depends. Are they paying the insurance or are you paying the insurance?
Yeah. I just imagine, I'm so thankful that the Trans Am that I got at 16 years old was limited to 180 horsepower, because I imagine if I would have gotten one of those Hellcats or Demons or whatever they are, and I probably would not be sitting here today. So, and we see that happen where we literally have to talk a parent out of like, look, are you really sure that, I'm in car sales, so I don't want to ever say no to you.
but between 16 and 18, if you think about the crazy stuff you do, you want to have the least amount of horsepower possible. I had my sister's hand-me-down Carmen Ghia, and I still managed to boomerang the thing going through an intersection. So that was what, 65 horsepower on a good day.
Hey, listen, we always say that you can hit the apex of a corner in a minivan. I mean, you can drive anything that you want in any format that you like, and as long as you just kind of squint. I always said, to guys who, you could have a hard time selling 4-door sedans. Nobody wanted a 4-door sedan. Then they started becoming more popular because the pricing of the 2-doors started going high. But
as you say, twice the doors, half the price.
Half the price. I love that. That's a great saying. But you know what's funny about it? A guy who bought one, I said, so why the 4-door? He goes, listen, when I'm driving it down the highway, I don't know if it's a 2-door or a 4-door or a convertible with a top up. I'm just enjoying driving my perspective and my view of the thing, and it's the feel and the nostalgia that I always wanted.
That's true, but I always say the true test is if you get out of the car and you don't look back.
That's exactly right.
She ain't the one.
She is not.
If you look back and you go, yeah.
I love having a car like that. And, we were all so afraid growing up that, the trend of cars and horsepower and power was going the wrong direction. I'm thinking, damn it, by the time I can afford something, there'll be nothing cool. And now they have 1,000 horsepower whatevers, right?
Yeah. Now we're back up to 3 and 4 digit numbers for brand new cars, which is insane.
Yeah. I've got a Mercedes that's got 650 horsepower and 721 foot-pounds of torque V12. And it's like, what am I
going to do with that?
What am I going to? Yeah, it's a blast to drive. It's the fastest car you'll ever drive, but a 911 is more fun to drive. It's not as fast and not as powerful. You have a 911, right? You're a 911
I do. I have
guy.
an old I have a 76 911S, and I have a 2009 997.2 that's a daily driver for me. And that car's got 385 horse.
Wow.
And I don't ever really go, I wish I had more.
Right. I have a 2006 911S, and it's
Very
6-speed.
Car.
Yeah, it's 6-speed. And it's so fun to drive. It's point and go. It's like point, go, point, go. It's so much fun. And the Mercedes is, it's like a freight train in power, but I don't think it's any more fun to drive.
No, it's an Autobahn Stormer.
Yeah, exactly. So, cars. So Cars 1, Cars 2, Cars 3, right? Is there a Cars 4 coming? Do we know?
No, not right now. We have some things coming for television, not from us. We have some additions going into Walt Disney World out your way. Cars related thing coming in there. We did Cars Land. There's always some. And here's a crazy thing. If you don't feel old, next year will be the 20th anniversary of the first Cars film. 2006.
That's just 1980 was only 20 years ago, so I don't know how that could possibly be.
Yeah, so we'll do some fun stuff for the anniversary of the film. Yeah, so I was on this film that came out 20 years ago next year, which is amazing. And it's still beloved. Every day I get a call, an email, something from somebody saying, my boy or my daughter just watched Cars for the first time and they love the movie.
Right. How cool is that? And you were the resident car nerd on the set, right? And that's how you kind of made your way up the food chain of cars, right?
Yeah, I had started on Monsters, Inc. in the art department and worked my way from a PA, which was entry level, to a coordinator. And then for Cars, they made me a manager of the character team. So I was overseeing them building the characters. And as they were building it, I said, actually a Volkswagen bus would have, bias ply tire. Right. Well, what's bias ply? Okay. Well, this would have skinny whites versus wide whites. What's that? Well, a Fiat 500 has transverse leaves. Well, what's trans? So I began to teach the people working on the crew about Automotive 101. So I taught classes to help them understand terms of coach building and different cars and different makes and different suspensions and engines and all that. And it was very helpful to them. So I sort of became, the Carsultant for the film.
The Carsultant, I love it. Well, and you want to get it right. So many car movies got it wrong, whether it's live action or animated or whatever it is, they get them wrong. The engine's horrible. You see a V8 something Camaro and it sounds like a Volkswagen Beetle, pop, pop, pop. And you think, come on. Or
it's a movie set in the 50s and a 74 Super Beetle drives by, or a late 60s pickup truck, and you're like, yeah. Is it that hard?
Yeah.
Was it that hard?
And what's really amazing, and I didn't think too much about this until recently when I was doing a little bit of research, the fact that the eyes of the car are not the obvious choice, the headlights, it's actually in the windshield. Yes. And I never really thought about that, but it makes them more real, I guess. I don't know.
I'll explain why we did that. So there was a Disney short called Susie the Little Blue Coupe that came out in 1952.
Wow.
And the eyes were in the windshield. And what we realized was, before we made our movie, the Chevron commercials were out where the headlights are the eyes. Right. You've seen the Chevron cars. When you put the eyes down in the headlights, the whole face is down at the front of the car. And so it becomes like a snake, right? With a little face down low. When you move the eyes up to the windshield, you've got the head of a dog or a horse with a long snout and the mouth in front, and you open up all this acting.
Right.
So as the car turns to the side, it holds up, right? I can see his eyes, right? All the way. I can still see the eye. Now they go away.
Right.
If the eyes are here, they start going away a lot quicker.
Sure. Wow.
So it really is helpful for acting because you have to make the audience suspend their disbelief that these are not living things. And so the more human you can make them feel and look, the more you connect with them on a human scale.
Well, they certainly feel real when you watch it. I mean, you forget that you're watching an animated movie because for some reason it just, exactly. That gives you a great, I love the Hudson Hornet too. And I love the story about the grandfather who used to be able to not get his kids to go anywhere near his Hudson Hornet until the movie came out. And then all of a sudden he was cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
How cool is that?
And there's so many stories like that. And even Richard Petty told me when kids come to the museum, they run straight to the blue Superbird car. That's how they know Richard Petty.
Right.
Mario Andretti, same thing. He said, I signed die-cast cars and these kids don't know that I raced at Indy, Formula One. They have no clue.
Don't
they
care.
know me as Mario Andretti from the movie.
Yeah. I mean, how amazing is that? And of course, the list of characters that you guys roped in. I mean, first of all, starting with Paul Newman, that must have not been an easy get. Okay, we're going to do an animated movie about cars. You in, Paul? Yeah, sure, I'm in. Call my agent, right?
And interestingly enough, it's the last film he did before he passed away was Cars.
Wow. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So it's pretty special that we did. It's so special that we got him because he also played an ex-racer. And so Paul looked at the lines in the script and started saying, well, that's not right. And that's not correct. Well, this wouldn't make any sense. And we ended up adding even more authenticity to the movie because of his input and his character. He wrote really a lot of those lines you're hearing. That's Paul. It's just him being himself.
Right. How funny. Because I mean, and it's great because most of the characters that you hear are kind of being whatever their perceived self is. I mean, Larry the Cable Guy, he's just hilarious all the time, and I mean, you just can't, it's just funny listening to him talking. He doesn't even have to say anything funny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and sometimes we talked about casting earlier, and that's just a natural casting where he's the perfect character. And, he wasn't really well known outside of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour before we got him for the part of Mater.
Right. We had that's so funny. We had we did an auction in Scottsdale in 2003 or 4, and one of his dear friends is a ringman, Marty Hill, who works a lot of the auctions that you'll see. He's one of the greatest ringmen on the planet. He and Larry or Dan are really good friends.
Dan Whitney is his name.
Yeah. And he goes, we're at this party and everybody's having a great time. We're just celebrating the auction we did today. And he goes, hey, I want y'all to hear this new comedian I'm friends with. And we're all like, oh, buzzkill, party kill. Nobody wants to hear a comedian tape. We're going to have to listen to this and act like it's funny. We were rolling on the floor. We were laughing so hard. I mean, it was Larry's first album that came out, and it was just hilarious. I mean, it had to be hard to keep a straight face when he was doing his thing.
That's a memory. And also we invited him to a party that we had, and he started doing his comedy, and some of it was a little, on the blue side. And we were all like, we weren't used to people making jokes like that.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't help it. It's guilty laugh.
Sure.
Man, funny man.
Yeah,
funny.
Just so funny, and the perspective that he has, and it's like I tell people all the time. Just because I'm from the South, and just because a guy talks a little slower, a little different, doesn't mean he's stupid. And don't underestimate some of these guys because they're these old farmers in their overalls and their thumbs stuck in their pockets are getting ready to fleece you. But some of the other people, I mean, the kind of the offbeat people that I love that you had on. I mean, first and foremost is Tony Shalhoub, who, if you ever seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, he is the funniest character ever. And he was so great as Luigi the Fiat 500. I mean, what a great character, recognizable voice, just wonderful.
Yeah, he was great. And he had been in another series when we hired him as well. There's another one where he played a detective. I can't think of what it was. And he just, you're right, just brilliant casting. And we do have a casting team that looks at who the character is and what personifies that character, and then they'll throw 3 or 4 or 5 people to do voices. We'll listen to their parts in different movies. Say, it'd be great. And sometimes we'll even animate a little thing with that person doing a voice in something else.
Just to get, so you've got to feel,
just to get a feel for it.
Right. Well, and I would imagine, I mean, will actors tell you that it's just as difficult doing just voice as it is to regular acting? I said regular acting.
More difficult, actually, because when you're on screen, you can gesture with your eyes and your face and your hands to convey emotion.
Right.
When you are literally just your voice and you have to sell something with your voice, you have to add a lot more nuance to that voice to sell what you're trying to do.
Sure. I mean, I never really thought about it that way, but that's really interesting, but the people that, like you said, Mario Andretti on the thing, Cheech Marin is Ramon, the 59 lowrider. I mean, that couldn't even be more perfect if you tried. Of course, you had to worry about some of the smoke and things, right?
Just from the tailpipe.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and I love, I'd forgotten about this one. Bob Costas was Bob Cutlass, and it was a 99 Aurora. That's so great. And so many people. Did you have people in the second and third movie like, oh, I want in? I mean, that seemed to be that would probably happen pretty frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of them was Jeff Gordon, because we had used Dale Jr. in the first film, and Jeff Gordon had become friends with John, with a lot of people in the studio, and wanted to do a voice. So we found a way to get him in there for the second film
and the third film. Yeah, his name, Jeff Gorvette.
Jeff Gorvette, yeah.
Which is appropriate because Mr. H and his collection of Corvettes, right? So
yeah, exactly. That's true.
Little inside little knowledge there. But
Lewis Hamilton we got for Cars 2.
Yeah, how cool is that? And then wasn't Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso, didn't they do like the European version?
They do their local region. Exactly. Kimi Räikkönen. A lot of these guys did their local area ones. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So Mika Hakkinen.
Oh my God, I love all that. We're diehards. We get up at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning to watch Formula One, and just diehard watching that stuff. Although, it's a little different nowadays than it was. It was fun to watch in the 80s and 90s. It's a little bit more polished, I guess, if you will.
It's different.
It's definitely different.
We did a research trip for Cars 2 for the second Cars film, and we went to Europe because Cars 2 was set in Europe, and I had not been to a Formula One race because in that era, we had no U.S. Formula One race. I'd never been to one. And I'd been in NASCAR and Indy and stuff. And we ended up getting to go to Monaco in 2009 and watch Jenson Button in that plain white Braun car who raced. And I was like, oh, I'm in. I love this. Yeah. And so I began to really get into F1 after that, to the point where I said, I'm going to go to a different race every year until I die.
Right.
And so I've been to about 15 different countries for races now.
Did you have a favorite of the ones you've seen?
The ones I've been to, Monza is pretty special because the fans are so crazy. I've been to Monza twice.
Right.
That's a pretty special one. I did Montreal last year for the first time. That was pretty cool to be in Montreal in the rain.
Right.
And then I actually did Bahrain.
Really?
A few years ago. Yes, that's 8,000 miles from me. There was no flight to get there. There was flights to get there.
I remember the old days when I smoked, I would think, I can't go to Bahrain. Why not? Well, I can't be on an airplane and not smoke for 10 hours.
for me, it was, I think I added up, it was 16 hours total. I had to fly to London first and then run to another terminal and then go London to Bahrain, which was another 6 hours. So it was formidable.
Yeah. So was the weather brutal when you got there, or was it okay? It's at night, right? It's a night race.
It's a night race, and during the day you really wake up sort of late, and then it's almost like being in Vegas, really.
Right. I'll never forget when I moved to South Florida. My buddy, it was 11:30 at night. He was getting in the shower, and I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, we're going out." I go, "It's 11:30 at night. Aren't we having bedtime snacks now?" He goes, "No. Things don't get hopping until midnight." I'm like, oh,
when it cools down.
Yeah, when it cools down. I love the fact that you had Eddie Izzard, the British comedian, drag dresser. What was his character? Sir Miles Axelrod.
Yes, exactly. He was in Cars 2. He was the one that was touting being that he had been converted to electric. Actually,
had been converted. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And maybe one of the greatest names was Brent Musburger becoming Brent Mustangburger. That must have been a blast just coming up with those names.
David Hobbs-Cap for David Hobbs.
We had him on the show not too long ago.
He's great, yeah.
Ray Reverham.
Yeah, so I'm the one who names a lot of those cars. Yeah.
How fun is that? That's got to be the best gig in the whole thing, right? Leave me alone. I'm coming up with names.
It gets hard because we also try to do employees. We try to do crew that worked on the film to name diecast of them. But if your name's Joe Smith... I can't name a diecast after everybody, but I try.
Did you come up with the cotter pin bar? I love that. That's great.
The cotter pin, I think, came up. One of our story guys came up with that one. And, we did a research trip to the South for Cars 3 and was hanging out. In fact, we met Million Dollar Bill.
Bill Elliott.
Bill Elliott and
Awesome
his son.
Awesome Bill from Dawsonville.
Chase was still on his way up back then.
Right.
We met him before he became
How cool.
Mega Chase Elliott.
And of course, you had Junior Johnson was involved. I mean, there's so many great guys. Mike Joyride. Of course, you mentioned earlier Richard Petty. As far as the Richard Petty, the car itself, the character car, if you will,
Suburban?
is there a life-size version of that? Or is there a life-size version of all these, or how does that?
Not all of them. So when we made the film, after the first film, we made a life-size McQueen and Mater.
Right. And
Porsche made a life-size Sally, which was a real 996 that we cut and shortened and turned into Sally. That lives in the Porsche Museum now.
Right.
The original life-size McQueen and Mater toured around, but then for Cars 2, we made a new electric version of them so they could be used indoors and they're more on model.
Right.
And we did a McQueen, a Mater, and a Finn McMissile for the second film.
Right.
And then for the new film, we did McQueen, Jackson Storm, and Cruz Ramirez for the new film.
Right.
There is a life-size Petty Superbird that Richard Petty has in his museum, but it's really just a car with some eyes in the windshield.
Gotcha. So the car number one of the Lightning McQueen, I mean, is it tucked away in some warehouse somewhere, or is it in a collection? Or
well, sadly, the first McQueen from the first film was based on another car, and it wasn't the best construction quality, and it actually got damaged in a fire.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, it's a shame. But the one from the second film, we converted into a Cars 3 McQueen. So we have the new Hero McQueen. We have a very old Mater that's been around since the second film.
Right.
And obviously all those other characters. Yeah.
Wow. There's
a bunch of McQueens, actually. There's one in the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Right.
That we put in there, and we have one at the Peterson out in LA.
And I guess those are that's always the problem with these celebrity cars that you run into is documentation and authenticity and what's real and what's not. And is a real Batmobile, is a real this, a real that. That's always difficult. But thank God for, especially back in the days, I was thinking with you guys, like Joe Bortz used to do back in the day when the General Motors were done with their concept cars and they'd send them to the Crusher. Well, the Crusher was right. And the cars all went left. And thank God they had the fortitude, the wherewithal, the knowledge to say, you know what, we should save these. We shouldn't crush these.
Yeah. And we have an archive group here that also saves old things that belong to Pixar, old computers and old, special things from our history. Because at the time it's junk, but then 20 years later you go, you know what? I wish I would have kept the first computer we used for Toy Story. Like, that's important, right?
Sure. Was this back in the day when Steve Jobs would buy a new 911 every 6 months because he didn't want to register it, and he could somehow get away with not registering it every 6 months and not even put a plate on it?
So I always saw him in an S class, never 911, always an S class. And yes, you're correct, no plate on it. And he would leave the plate in the trunk if it came because, in California, you could run your temp tags up to a certain number of months, and that's what he would do. I don't know why, but that's what he did.
Just to giving it to the man.
Yeah, I don't know. He just thought that was cool.
Well, I can't believe our time is already up because, we could probably go on forever, and I still have 14 pages left. So, as usual, I over-prepare and under-deliver. So, but
no, this is okay. If you have a good burning question, this is your time to ask it. What's your big one?
What's your daily driver?
I'm fortunate because I get media cars, so I get a different car every week.
Oh, come on! Now, how do I get into that? Can you get me into that rotation?
You got to write some articles.
I'll start writing.
Okay, good. I got some for you to write on. I have a 997 that's my own daily, my 09. That's my daily driver, and it's in Porsche Racing Green Metallic over sand beige. So it's a nice color combo.
And what's the dream car that's not in the garage?
I'd love to find an ISO Revolta IR 300 or 340. I think those are very cool.
Very cool.
They've got an expensive, which they shouldn't be.
No, they shouldn't. But
And I'd love to have one of those. Or that's probably the next one I'm looking at.
Mine is a Z8. That's the BMW. I want an 0102, and I can't afford one. And they just keep getting out of reach. That's the problem with these cars.
You've had one of those.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, Jay, so wonderful having you on the show, and we hope we can do it again because we can talk about a million more things, I'm certain of, and never a loss for words here. So, and thanks for getting up so early on the other coast, and hopefully we'll see you. Are you coming back to Radnor this year? Have you made plans yet for do you know what your schedule is? And
I don't know. We have a traveling exhibit that's going around the world called Mundo Pixar that's open in 3 countries right now. So we have one in Brazil, we have one in Barcelona that's moving to Brussels, and then we have another one that's in Santiago, Chile that's moving around. I'm going to miss Amelia Island this year because we're opening up our one in Brussels, Belgium. So Mundo Pixar is moving around, so that'll take me out of a few events this year.
Sure. Well, hey, there's always next year, right?
That's right.
Thanks again, Jay Ward, folks. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll see you in just a couple of minutes on the Classic Auto Mall Show.
The Classic Auto Mall has more than 1,000 vehicles for consignment in our huge 8-acre climate-controlled showroom. It's a real indoor mall. If you'd like to know all the advantages of buying and selling a car through consignment, the information is available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, convenient, and it doesn't matter where you are. We sell worldwide. See our huge selection of classic and collectible vehicles at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, show number 180 with another incredible guest. Thank you, JS. We appreciate all your help and hard work and not letting people say no to you.
Right. Wow. Amazing.
Jay Ward from Pixar. How cool is that? What a cool gig. Got to name most of the characters on there. Gets to travel around. Had to go to Monaco for a little research. I need that gig. I think that's what I need to do. You know, it's funny because he started out working, like he said, working for the company, and then they kind of realized he was the car guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and
he
how
said he
perfect.
was a PA, which is, that's the dream job.
Yeah.
You work your way up. It's amazing.
I mean, listen, it's like starting in the mailroom at William Morris Agency or whatever, you know, is the thing to do, and how you got forward. I always thought it would be cool to see if I could start at the local McDonald's as the fry cook and see how far I could go. Could I become?
It's not too late.
Well,
it's not too late.
Look at Mr. Trump.
Yeah, I mean,
he became president.
Yeah, start as the CEO, and start as the fry cook and make it to CEO. But there's a lot of guys or not a lot of guys, but there are guys. I think there's a guy at McDonald's who started out just taking the trash out and ended up being the CEO.
Well, that's how it works. That's America.
Jethro on the Beverly Hillbillies said he either wanted to be a fry cook or a brain surgeon.
Jethro from Hill. Or Ernest T. Bass said he's going on a date and he shaved the back of his neck. And you know how you could tell? Because it's slickerty. So where did we sell cars the last week? We only have 1 week to do, thank God. Last week we had 3 weeks to do, and I had a throat aneurysm. Whatever the hell
This will be a short list.
Yeah, New Hope, Pennsylvania, South Berwick, Maine, Lincoln University, Pennsylvania, Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, Winfield, Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Agua Calientes, Mexico.
Hey, now.
Washington Borough, Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania, Macomb, Michigan, Manville, New Jersey, Istanbul, Turkey.
No kidding.
Wow.
Newark, Delaware, Ormond Beach, Florida, Colonia, New Jersey, South Hackensack, New Jersey, Salem, Illinois. I did that just to mess with you. Illinois, and Sunny Isle Beach, Florida. So 17, 18 sold.
Very nice.
Yeah, not a bad week. So we were talking earlier about my Mercedes, which is on the market now.
It is.
The S65.
Beautiful write-up.
We've said it's a fantastic write-off. Write-off.
Was that a write-off?
Well, it could have been. We sold the Cobra finally.
Yeah, congratulations.
Put all of 11 miles on it. And we sold the 63 Pontiac Grand Prix.
You did. Congratulations on that one, too.
That's a great car.
I was waiting for the price to drop to almost
just to the right. Just to the nothing mark.
Whoever got it got a very nice car.
Oh, my God. I love that car. And you know what's funny? It's sometimes cars that you think are going to be the next to sell, don't it took over a year to sell?
Oh, sure.
I mean, and that's part of it, unfortunately. We talk to people all the time about our process and our new process, and we'll talk about that today. We still have no upfront fees and no monthly fees until day 120. So we market your car for 120 days on 65 websites. Thousands of people see the car every week in here available for sale. Millions see it online. And we'll give you the first 120 days, no charge. And in the meantime, we're paying, our rent factor is based on, we don't own the building. And so our rent factor is based on number of cars. We pay $200 a month per car. So after 120 days, it's going to be $100 a month is your share of it. And then that's, go find cheaper storage.
That's right.
And if you want to sell the car, then it's a good time to lower the price. And we're not doing it because we're trying to be greedy. We're doing it so we can continue to do this for our clients and for ourselves. I don't really want another gig. This is the last thing I'd like to do.
That's right.
And so
it's not good door dashing. I've tried
or what's the driving thing?
Uber.
Uber, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, I mean, although, I think if you've got the guys who seem to do well in Uber are the guys who are in like downtown Philly with a brand new big old Escalade.
Yeah.
They're charging like $90 for the same ride that the guy with the electric Prius is charging $29 for or whatever. So, but sometimes it's worth worth it, you just got to go with that.
Well, yeah, and good luck getting that car down some of those streets.
Yeah, it's like in
the East Coast cities.
I had a friend of mine had a 6-door Mercedes limousine, and he wanted me to drive it for him down to Key West. And the drive to Key West was fantastic. But when you got to Key West, trying to negotiate those streets in a 6-door stretch Mercedes limo was like trying to thread a needle, find a needle in a haystack. I mean, it was impossible to drive that thing around. And of course, we thought we were pretty darn cool. And we pulled up to the hotel we were staying in our Mercedes limousine. And then right behind us pulls up a white Rolls-Royce limousine that was owned by Al Copeland, the guy from Popeye's Fried Chicken. And this was in the offshore boat racing days. And we were like, well, we're not so cool anymore.
A friend of mine had a 6-door with his car lot.
Right.
And he let me borrow it to take my in-laws out. And I picked them up and we're going. And the grandma says, "This is a funeral car." "Oh, no, it's a limousine." "No, it's not. I've seen these at funerals."
Funeral car. Yeah, Grandma, there was something we needed to tell you. But the 6-door limousine, it was all the seats were facing forward.
Sure.
So it was the same. That's why,
the airport.
Like the airport cars.
Yeah.
Remember the old checker cabs that were 28 feet long or whatever and had 17 doors and... There's my buddy Michael Dezer, who has Dezerland down in Florida and the Audrain Mall down there in Orlando. He's got a limousine that's 128 feet long.
Wow.
It's got a helicopter landing.
No way.
It's got a hot tub. It's got it's massive.
Randy, grab a picture of that.
Yeah. Oh, you'll find it. Just go to Dezerland.com and it's an amazing limousine. And
checkers were built in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and my dad was a postmaster in Southwest Michigan. And one of the mail carriers went up to Checker and got one because he would get paid if he drove his own car. And the thing was a tank.
Right.
Most other cars would be shot.
Yeah, especially
in mail delivery.
Well, especially in that kind of weather.
Yeah.
And all the junk on the road, which we were talking about earlier around
We've
here.
sold a few checkers here.
We have sold a few checkers here. You don't see many of them.
Nope.
You used to see them at auction pretty frequently, and now they're very infrequently seen. I don't know if everybody got one and just kind of hanging on to them or what the story is. I had a guy who had a checker that he customized and made it into a resto mod, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
All nice leather interior and fancy stereo and plenty of room.
The jump seats in them.
And it was like a silver blue, and it was really, somebody told you about it, you go, well, I don't know about that. But,
well, of course, most of them were just driven into the ground.
Yeah. Really. So if you're in the market for a Mercedes, check that one out. Other new arrivals, how about the 1990 Buick Reatta convertible, bright red over saddle, known history, 36,462 actual miles. That's one, as we were talking about with Jay, you could drive a little bit and it wouldn't kill the value. If you put 45,000 on it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. One of 2,132 built, service records on it, 3.8-liter V6, some top-down fun. Other new arrival, how about the 1967 Olds 442 convertible, Spanish red over black, nicely restored, correct 400 cubic inch 4-barrel V8, correct turbo hydromatic 400. What a great car. It's got the original window sticker and the 10-bolt anti-spin axle. What was what we were talking about last week that we never did do our research on? Did we? What were we?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. We asked something. I'll have to go back and look at it. Other new arrival, the 1994 Auburn 851 Speedster replica. Periwinkle. I just would like to say periwinkle. Periwinkle over light blue and white. Affordable opulence. 430 cubic inch Buick V8, turbo hydromatic 400, Mustang 2 front end. This thing is pretty striking. That color really makes that thing. That and the pink one that we've got.
Yeah, we've got several of them in inventory.
They pop. They're kit cars, but they're cool, and no harm, no foul.
I mean, they are showstoppers, really.
They absolutely are. And most people would never see a real Auburn 851 Speedster in real life. So to see one as a replica, I say no harm, no foul.
Would you drive the pink one, though?
No. Well, because I'm
in a parade, you would. Well, it depends on the parade.
Our spokeswoman,
Alyssa.
She'd be great in there. Sit on the back and wave.
Wave.
She likes
the Barbie car.
In fact, we have some photos of her with the pink outfit on. She looks great in it.
She looked great in it.
She's actually in a video with that car. We did a little video with Garrett.
So that's right.
Check that out on YouTube.
A little vignette you did.
And she ends up with the pink Auburn.
Look for it, folks.
Yeah. How about the 1957 Turner 803 Roadster? Talking about rare as hen's teeth. One of 19 left. Super red over black. Rebuilt and worked 948 cc 4-cylinder. dual 1.5 SU carbs, a BMC 4-speed manual tranny, Kevlar clutch. Wow, that's fancy schmancy. Racing log and documents. This is a really cool little car and very historical. And if you get a chance, check it out. It's on our website, classicautomall.com, as all the new arrivals that we have. Also, how about the 1932 DeSoto 6SA Series Deluxe Sedan? Pilot blue and black over gray, 56,000 actual miles. 4 owners from new. This thing's a show winner with a 205 cubic inch inline 6, plush interior, 3-speed manual transmission. It almost looks like a little bit of a Model A-ish look to it, but it's
more
really
opulent. Yeah, beautiful car.
Yeah, when you really stop and look at it, you could walk right past it and think, oh, that's just a Model A or just a whatever, which is not diminishing a Model A. I love Model A's. But this one is just different enough when you start really looking at it. You go, oh, wow, look at that. It's different, and that's kind of cool.
It really is.
And last but not least, the 1972 Chevrolet C20 Suburban. Yeah. Grapefruit and white over parchment and tan. Window sticker and the Protecto plate. Correct 402 cubic inch 4-barrel V8. Great vintage hauler. Front and rear AC. And nicely preserved. The Protecto plate, for those of you who don't know, is a plate that came with the car for the warranty information that would come in your warranty booklet. It was actually glued. It was a metal plate that was glued onto one of the pages. And it would tell what the serial number was, what the VIN number, what the engine number. It wasn't even a VIN number back then. Right. The serial number. And the engine number and some other pertinent information. And it was a real good reference to what that car was and to where it was sold, new, whatever dealership, and to what town the person lived in when they bought it. And we always talk about nowadays, it's funny, back in the old days, back in the 60s and 70s, car dealers didn't sell any much further than their own zip code. I mean, or even in just their own little county or neighborhood. Or town. Or township. They didn't sell it across the country or across state lines or even across, the other side of the state.
Yeah, that is true.
They sold it.
Do you know why it was metal? Why not just a printed page?
Permanent.
Yeah.
Why didn't they stick it to the car?
I don't know.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Can we get answers to these things?
Yeah.
I have a
podcast at classicautomall.com.
Yeah. Tell us everything we did wrong.
Give us some information.
Yeah, we just
maybe you'll be a guest.
Yeah, maybe you could be a guest. Maybe it shows how smart you are. It doesn't take much to get past us. So you can probably if you can say hello and blink twice in your eyes, then you can come on the show.
Jay was fantastic. I didn't realize he was such a deep car guy.
Oh my God,
he really knows a lot. And from Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri, which I didn't know either. And how fun was that? And he's also a motorcycle guy, which we didn't get into.
And Larry the Cable Guy is actually from Nebraska. Dan is from Nebraska.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people don't know him. That accent is put on.
It's a little put on. He's got he's got more of a Midwestern, northern, I don't know.
Good guy, though.
But a great guy.
Oh,
funny.
that's right.
Funny.
You're done.
Yeah, and like he said, like Jay said, he gets a little blue sometimes.
It's the best part.
But you can see all the Disney execs like,
wow, ooh,
yeah,
Hollywood. Or Pixar execs in this case. But I mean, you think about it. I mean, there's lots of Richard Pryor was, as foul mouthed as they came, but he did a lot of network television stuff where he didn't, he toned it down because he obviously knew that he couldn't talk like that on the air or even on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Carson or anywhere else that he was doing it.
Damn straight.
Damn Skippy. So, but anyway, we have had another wonderful show here. Next week, we have Rob Dyson.
Very nice.
Famous race car driver and philanthropist and all kinds of cool things. And we'll have him on the show. And then the following week is going to be whom?
Forgot the name already.
Who are we going to do the following week? I can't remember now. Oh, I know. Herb Fischel.
Okay.
Herb Fischel, who is the chief engineer at GM Motorsports and Chevrolet Motorsports back in the day. We'll have him on. And then the next week, we'll have the head of restoration from McPherson College in McPherson, Kansas, which is an amazing place teaching restoration of cars and all that good stuff. So a lot of things to look forward to on the Classic Auto Mall Show, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Classic Auto Mall Show with your host, Stuart Howden. Executive producer Steve Safier. Produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ. Available on classicautomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit pattravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.